Good evening, everyone. My name is Ramin Azar. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm also the owner of the private practice known as Flex to Success Clinical Rehabilitation Services. And today I'd like to do a presentation on avoidant personality disorder. Avoidant personality disorder is characterized by 7 different criteria. The first criteria is the patient may avoid occupational activities that involve significant interpersonal contact because of fears of criticism, rejection, or disapproval. So when clients with this personality disorder enter into a job and they're invited to engage in personal activities with other coworkers, they have a tendency to want to avoid those activities because they're afraid that they're going to screw up, mess up, look silly, or be embarrassed. The second criteria is they are unwilling to make new friends without absolute certainty that they would be liked. So you can imagine that this type of client is probably very self-isolative. They don't make new friends very easily, and they constantly analyze and overanalyze and overthink social interactions to try and figure out if someone actually likes them or not. The third criteria is they will show restraint within intimate relationships for fear of being shamed or ridiculed. So they might be hesitant to have sex even after dating for years. They might avoid kissing. They might avoid making out or cuddling or showing any type of affection. Back rubs, foot rubs. They might come off as very stoic and cold and distant. And it's not because they don't want to connect with you. It's because they're afraid that they're going to do something wrong and then they're going to be shamed for it. The fourth criteria is a preoccupation with being criticized or rejected in social situations. So this type of personality disorder is constantly focused on, am I looking inept to other people? Are my words incoherent? They're constantly going over what they said to other people and trying to figure out how it sounded to them. They spend a massive amount of time overthinking these types of interactions, and it tends to waste a lot of their time. The fifth criteria is being inhibited or reserved in new interpersonal situations because of feelings of inadequacy. So this kind of goes along with number one, where like any type of whether they're volunteering somewhere, working somewhere, whether they're meeting somebody in a professional capacity, they just have a tendency to want to be very reserved and inhibited to avoid any type of embarrassment. So right off the bat, when they're entering into those types of social situations, they already think that they're at a disadvantage. So they're already operating from a mentality that I'm socially awkward, even if they're not. They could be the most socially normal person you ever met in your life, but in their mind, they think that they're the most awkward person on the planet. And yeah, so that's criteria number 5. Criteria number 6 is they view themselves as socially inept, personally unappealing, or inferior to other people. So that kind of goes along with what I just said. They're already walking in at a disadvantage in every social situation. They just don't see themselves as somebody that can present well. And the ironic part of this is that some of these people with avoidant personality disorder, they actually do present really well, but their perception of how they present is warped. So they don't realize that they actually present well. They don't realize that they actually come off as intelligent. They don't realize that people actually see their positive qualities when they're socially interacting. All they're focused on is if they screw up a word, or if they say something that doesn't make 100% sense, or if they use a word that they don't know the definition of in the wrong way. Any little minor mistake like that, and they feel like the whole entire social interaction was ruined. Meanwhile, the person who they're socializing with might not even realize the mistake that they made. But yet this person will sit there and dwell on this for days upon days upon days and beat themselves up over it. Criteria number 7 is they are unusually reluctant to take personal risks or engage in new activities because of a fear of being embarrassed. So I can come up with many different examples of this. For instance, I have a buddy who I play chess with on a regular basis. And many times while we're playing chess in coffee shops like Starbucks or, Brewport and Bellport, people will come up to us while we're playing and they'll be very interested, and we'll ask them like, hey, do you play chess? They'll say yes. And we'll say, hey, do you want to sit down and play a game with us? Very reluctant. No, 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 no. I just want to watch. I just want to watch. Um, Now, those people might not necessarily have avoidant personality disorder, um, but maybe some of them do. And, it is important to note that avoidant personality disorder basically represents about 1% of the population, so it is somewhat of a rare condition. But that's just an example of how somebody with AVP might be reluctant to jump into any new activities because they're worried about feeling silly. Um, you know, if you're sitting down on the bleachers watching like a 3-on-3 basketball game and somebody gets hurt and they ask you to play, somebody with AVPD right away might be like, no, 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 that's okay. I'm not here to play. I just want to watch. Why are they avoiding the activity? Because they're worried that even though they want to play, they're going to hop in there and they're going to trip and fall down, or they're going to look silly, or they're going to get embarrassed, or they're going to get a chance to shoot an open shot and miss it. And then everyone's going to be mad at them. These are the things they're focused on. They're focused on all the negative. It's a highly pessimistic disorder. So they're always thinking about what could go wrong and how they could look bad instead of saying, hey, let me just hop in there, get some exercise, enjoy the activity. If I screw up here and there, who cares? Life goes on. They don't think like that ever. They don't have a take it as it comes type of mentality. They have a, oh my God, what if I make a mistake type of mentality. And this type of mentality kind of leads me into the next point that I want to make. This disorder is kind of, the theme of this disorder is conflict avoidance versus conflict acceptance. So people who are more accepting of conflict, they're not afraid to take risks. They're not afraid to put themselves in situations where they might feel uncomfortable. They're not afraid to suffer a little bit in order to achieve something great. People with conflict avoidance are people who, that tends to be a characteristic of avoidant personality disorder, where anytime you sense that there could be any type of conflict whatsoever, you want to avoid whatever that particular activity or that particular thing is because you don't want to be put in situations where there's going to be conflict. You're terrified of being embarrassed, shamed, or ridiculed. So wherever you perceive there to be conflict, wherever you perceive there to be risk, you run the other direction. Now, why is this bad in life? Well, if you never ever take risks ever, life can become really dull and really boring really quickly. Um, Part of what makes us feel alive is having some type of purpose, having something that we truly believe in, having some ultimate goal, right? And then being willing to take risks in order to accomplish that goal. At some point in time, if you want to do something great, you're going to be put in a position where you have the opportunity to take a risk in order to accomplish that great thing. And if you're not willing to take that risk, what it is you're robbing yourself of the opportunity of doing something great. Because you only have a couple opportunities to take risks in order to better yourself towards your goal. And if you don't take the opportunities as they come, what happens is they pass you by, and then you end up maybe not accomplishing your goal. And this is a very common thing that happens with people with AVPD. Um, they constantly avoid conflict, avoid conflict, avoid conflict. And then once they miss all their opportunities, they end up missing their goal. And then they're frustrated, and then they're upset, and then they feel worse about themselves, and their self esteem goes down. They feel more inferior. And it's a vicious cycle that they get stuck in. Um, So that's my presentation on avoidant personality disorder. Um, it's, again, very rare, but for the people that have it, it's an extremely debilitating disorder because it holds them back in life from reaching their true potential. Um, Talk therapy is a great way to attack this personality disorder and counteract it. In talk therapy, one of the things that you try and focus on is you are encouraging the patient to take really small risks and building them up into taking bigger and bigger risks for the things that are important to them. And by doing that, what you do is you're desensitizing them, kind of like in an exposure therapy setting. You're desensitizing them to being able to come out of their comfort zone and suffer for something that's important for them. And then having them talk about what it was like to make those, what was it like to feel socially awkward? What was it like to make those mistakes? What was it like to be uncomfortable in those social settings? And having them vent it out and talk it out and get it off their chest so that they can move forward. And once they develop a pattern of behavior where they're constantly taking smaller and smaller risks, leading up to bigger and bigger risks, right? Then they can learn to somewhat overcome this ailment. So that's my presentation. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Take care until next time. Have a good night. Bye.